Oh, let me start this one. And do you see anything? It's very probably difficult. So let me start coding. So I click this button. And so I want to write a completely new script. So what do we want to do? I said this is continuously connected to the internet. So let me add a new method. Let's call that simply go. And so what should this new method do? It should go to the web and actually collect the pictures of Cartagena. So how can I write this? So I go and say I add something. So what do I want to do first is I introduce a local. So as you see, this is a structured editor where in some sense you only see little fragments all the time. But then the keyboard is actually very smart. It knows typically what you want to do. So I said I want to do a web search. So I say, okay, I want to do a web search. There's the web button. So I'll take my web. So then I want to search for images. Wonderful. And I want to see let me try to find images of this beautiful city. Oops, sorry. So typing is actually the most difficult here. Programming is actually much easier. Cartagena, that's what I typed here. So, and so this is my first statement. Result is a web search of images of Cartagena. So then I'm done with this line. So then I say, okay, I want to add something more. What do I want? I want to print out all the images that I find. And so we can do that with a for each loop. And so for each nows know which local variables are in scope, and it offers me, oh, there are in some sense the set of links that I actually collected earlier in my web search. So I'm done. So I go over for each over all links. And as a consequence, it says, okay, my local is now link. So then I'll say, okay, add one more line. And what I want is that for each link that I find, I want to post it to the wall. My wall is actually my display on my device. And so this is all I had to write. So let's run this program and see what happens. So we are searching Bing. We are loading. And here are all the pictures from the web. And some are faster loading, some are slower loading. Here's another one. And you should actually recognize this wonderful place. Okay, so this was really, what did I enter? I entered really 3 lines in order to a web search for images. If you go and try to find a web search on this device, this is Bing. As you probably see, Bing doesn't have actually an image search on the mobile phone, so we just added some functionality that is missing on this device with 3 lines. Let me show you something else, and I want to go back. So it turns out that smartphones, they have actually great graphics engines. And so what do most people do when they use a smartphone? They actually play games with it. So let's write a little game. And so what's for most games, what they do is they do some physical simulation. So let's do a little physical simulation. And so in order to write a game, we write now a 2D game, where we actually want to have balls bouncing up and down based on, in some sense, the friction. And we want to use the accelerator. So if I move my phone, then I want to see that the balls, in some sense, always jump to the place where there's the biggest gravity. So here is the program. And I don't program it again, but it's really this long. It's probably difficult to see. So what does it do? Maybe I'll show it, explain it. It creates a board that's in some sense our physical environment, our 2D. And then it has one loop where I create in some sense balls, ellipses, and simply says how the elasticity looks like. And then I have another loop where I look at the accelerator in this device. And depending on the accelerator, I move the balls. So let's see how that looks like. And here is, in some sense, the whole program. So I asked for 20 balls of different size. And it uses the accelerator in order to determine in the physical world where they should actually go and how they, in some sense, should fly through space. And this is how most games are done. So actually, 50% of all games are not much bigger than 80 lines of code if you have the right abstraction. So now, since this is a wonderful device, I actually have also my media on my device. I cannot only take pictures from the web, but why don't I, so here I just had balls flying through the air. I can also say, oh, instead of taking a ball, I take a thumbnail of the pictures that are on my phone and I let them rotate. So let me do that. And so this is the pictures. And I think you get the picture. So the only thing that I've now changed in this program is that instead of creating ellipses, I go to my media on my device, that's actually the pictures, and I take some random pictures, and now I do the same thing and put a different background in it. And so the whole program is this much. So you see everything. Let's see what fun pictures I have. Here are my pictures on my phone. And you see that in some sense now I can have my pictures floating around. I could go on and show you how you use Microsoft Translator and so on. Everything that you can imagine is typically as small as this one. All the programs are really simple. It has an integration into maps. It has an integration into OCR. And what is really the great news is, since we are always connected to the web, we can use all the functionality on the web. For example, for speech translation, we don't have to do that on the phone. We can send the text over to the cloud, and we just get the translated text back. So with this, I want to conclude and say, what's I think the really exciting thing is that the cloud is there and mobile is there. And what you really want to do is actually bring them together. And if you think about what's the best programming environment, maybe programming on the phone is actually not so bad. But you have to change everything. Your normal input mechanism with a keyboard is suddenly replaced largely with touch. Your programming model suddenly changes very rapidly because you have to, in some sense, get very easy access to all the different services that are there. Cloud integration, it's a lot of fun, but it is also lots of danger because I could actually send also my naked pictures into the cloud, and who knows who sees them, and who wants to see them in the first place. That's a different story. And of course, you can imagine that programming on the phone and running those scripts is actually relatively energy inefficient. And so if we really want to move that into mainstream, we have to think about how we make that much more energy efficient. The good news is you can try this out. You can go to the Windows Phone Market Store or to this website and download it. And so the latest version I showed you, 1.2, that has the graphics engine. 1.1 doesn't have the graphics engine, but it should come out every day now, so it's already registered. This is meanwhile number 38 of the most popular apps on the Windows Phone. Somebody told me if we would have done it for Android or iPhone, I wouldn't have to be here anymore. I would ask for money for it, but we don't. This is all free, and it's really fun to use the device, but also fun to do the research for these devices. So summary is, I think everything that I talked to you today is we have submitted papers. No paper has rejected yet. But it's so fresh that I can't give you the links to those papers. But so software analytics, I think we really see that it will change the software development process quite rapidly. And within Microsoft, there's more demand for it than we can handle. And it really enables making better data-driven decisions. The logic-based tools really help make better software artifacts because you can check lots of properties. Not only equivalences, but I will show you many more tomorrow if you would come to the booth. And I think whenever you work in software engineering, it's such a fascinating area because it changes every year, and the cloud and the phone are really fun areas. And let me just mention one area that I haven't talked about. What about software engineering in games? So I showed you some of the little games. It turns out that games is currently a $50 billion market. There are almost no people who... So there are lots of people that develop games, but very few use software engineering principles in this development. So there's a huge potential, in some sense, to advance the game development with the things that we have learned in traditional software engineering. With this, I want to conclude. I really want to thank you for listening, but I also have to thank all those people. These are people in my team, and, oops, and the one in the leftmost column are actually the people which work I presented over here, but the others helped in many, many ways. There are lots of links. Thanks a lot for your attention. It was a pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you.